You're experiencing the Authentic Chaos Podcast, an exploration into our inner selves and journeys of self-discovery. I'm your host, Vahagan Yarnosian, and today I have a returning very special guest, Tessa Heron.
Ding ding!
Welcome, Tessa, for round 2 of Authentic Chaos.
What's up? What's up? Shit, I shouldn't make those jokes in this shirt. Like people always call me like a
It's
referee
okay, it's
in
okay.
this. Damn it. Damn it, and then I just brought it up. Anyway.
It's alright. You know, our
me.
audience is very mature, and you know, half of them aren't even watching the video, probably. Probably only like 1 or 2 are watching the video. So, dear listeners, in this beautiful day in April, it's tax day. If you're listening to this and haven't done your taxes, you might be a little late. I hope you did.
Yeah.
Next year we'll be a little bit more timely with our tax day reminder. But you know, thank you.
No. We got to teach them. They got to listen every day the second it starts streaming.
But thanks you, Tessa, for joining me. And like, you know, we've both been on like quite a few adventures throughout the past couple months. So, what's been exciting you lately?
Taxes. No.
Who doesn't get excited by taxes?
Yeah, no. You know what's been exciting me? Connecting with people, shifting people's roles in my life. I'm also kind of on a job hunt. To sum it up, I just drew a tarantula tarot card.
Okay.
And it's kind of a tough one because it signifies this big fork in the road in front of you. And you have to pick the fork that is the most in line with your dharma. Do you do tarot? Are you familiar?
I don't do tarot, and many of my audience might not be familiar.
Shocking.
So if you'd be willing to give an explanation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of like reading a horoscope or something.
Yeah.
And I actually probably shouldn't even be speaking on this, but
what's
draw a card.
dharma?
It has like a little. Oh, it's like your life's purpose. It's like your life's purpose.
So kind of like your values.
Yeah. So essentially I just got this message. It's just like a random draw of a card that, you know, supposedly has meaning, but anyway.
It has whatever meaning you want to give it to.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's always good to reflect on things in different ways, but yeah, it gave me a message that I need to choose a path, and one of them has my dharma at the end of it, or follow it.
Yeah.
My life's purpose. It's kind of heavy.
That is, I mean, that's not like a choice to be taken lightly. That's like a life-defining choice. And like, how are you going about even like figuring out what that branch is or what that decision's gonna be?
So much writing, a little bit of meditation,
a
little bit of consultation with friends, my advisors, my board of advisors.
I love that.
You know who you are. But yeah, how have you been? You've been globetrotting.
Yeah, I've been, you know, maybe to a less extreme degree, but I've been kind of doing similar things as you. Like I was traveling throughout Southeast Asia, and regular viewers of this podcast will know that I did quite a few interviews while I was traveling, and episodes in Thailand and Laos and Cambodia, and those were really spectacular. I love hearing I like your little reaction. I was wondering. I like hearing like other people's stories, and you know, like you said, like I love connecting with people. And one thing I've noticed as I've asked people this question of like what excites you is that more and more people are starting to talk about how they really value connecting with people in a way that like I didn't even like expect in America. Like most of these are Americans who I've been asking, and I think people are slowly starting to understand or appreciate the value of like total strangers in their lives, or like people they may not have given much credence to. And so like
Wow.
I've
Love
been
that.
I've been reflecting on that a lot. I've been like expanding my own mindfulness journey and trying to figure out like what makes sense for me, you know. I was sold like this lifestyle that I had to take, like a a molded life that is supposed to fit the average American citizen, but I don't feel average. I feel like the lifestyle of like, oh, you know, get a house, get a job, or get a job, get a house, get married, have kids, retire at like 65 or 70 or whenever. Maybe never. And then deal with the mounting
Yeah.
costs that are constantly increasing. Like, I'm unemployed right now, and I'm realizing how expensive it is to be poor in this country. Like,
Dude, something's got to give. Something's going to seriously snap. Everybody's
yeah,
feeling this pressure. It's bad. I don't know. Like, I don't understand the invisible hands involved.
yeah. I mean, I don't think the system is meant for us. I think it's meant for like the capitalists, the people that have that own the land, own the like own the companies, own the production, or own the profits of the production. I don't think it's ultimately for us. We're the workers. We're just supposed to be kept alive long enough to be as productive as possible. And it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I was happy to do it while I was like kind of docile in the system. Like I wasn't so like I didn't think about it,
Found
right?
out how
I,
fucked up it was. Well, I think no. I think you
okay.
have been thinking about this. I think you knew these things to be true, or you understood like what the fuck capitalism is. But I
Yeah.
think actually experiencing a break from it, you're like, whoa, like you can really see it from a different perspective. Because when's the last time you didn't have a job? I've had a job since I was like fucking 14 years old.
Yeah,
You know?
the last time so the last time I didn't have a job was when I like had I had a speedy exit out of grad school. Um
Okay.
I was 23, 24. I had failed out of my PhD candidacy exam, and I had what I call a quarter life crisis, because I suddenly had this whole life path I had set for myself
Mm.
had vanished and was no longer a possibility for me. So like I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Like all of my hopes and dreams, like everything. I had my whole future planned. I figured where I was gonna end up living, like what kind of house I'd want, like what kind of family I'd want, and all of that came crumbling down because of this.
Ah,
And
ah.
and then
That's the torture of youth, man.
it is,
You have no
yeah.
longevity. Yeah.
And I was so like reflect looking back at it. So because I'm in a kind of a similar position right now. Granted, I have more money saved away, so I'm not like 6 months away from having to move back in with my parents. But I've
That would
also,
make for some good podcast episodes.
if I
We're
could go
hugging it
back in time
home.
to past me. um, but I have been reflecting that what really makes this different, or what really helps me now versus then, is that back then I felt this desperation, this urgency to find what's next, to fill the void of what's next. Like
Mm-hmm.
realistically, I could have waited. I could have spent some time. Hold on.
It's the cops. Talk about waste of public tax money. What happened to tax day? We'll get to it anyway. Still, I think it's actually a fire. I think it's actually fire.
It could be.
Who knows it?
So
Hey, podcast listeners,
that's
is
another
it a
thing
fire
that
truck, ambulance, or cop?
that's another thing I learned in like other countries. Like sirens are not nearly as loud. I feel like in the US they blast sirens to like maximum loudness, and sometimes for no
Yeah.
reason. Like the street can be empty and they'll still blast it at like 150% just to like say, "Hey, we're here.
So weird. So weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I'm sorry. What were we talking? What was I saying before I got distracted?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually took a note. It was actually
Oh,
unrelated. We were talking about
oh yeah, past
well,
me,
after
past
that
me.
siren level.
So
Yeah, past you.
So I think one of the big things about like that is different about my current predicament versus where I was in the past is that now I have I guess I feel more wisdom about myself, more understanding, more maybe I understand my dharma more to go back to your tarot example. But
Mm.
like I feel more connected with who I am as a holistic person. Back then I my soul connection with myself was this
Mm.
future dream I had, and that was solely dependent on a profession, and I had tied myself to that. Like I was a scientist. And like because of that I had all these things coming. So who I was tied to things that were outside of me. Now who I am,
Which,
oh, sorry.
yeah, which is a good thing that you've evolved since there because, that could have been in the sense of balance, in the sense of losing a job, for you to lose your entire identity along with it,
Yeah, it's
would be a lot
terrifying.
more devastating. And
Yeah.
you landed on your feet because you have a whole, life and self conception beyond work.
Yeah,
And
and
you're like
I
enjoying the
have
ride a little bit.
a community that helped me through it. I have really good friends that I can be vulnerable with and talk to, and family I can be vulnerable with
Yeah.
and talk to. But I also give myself the space to be able to reflect and sit down and take a step back and just think. Think about what makes sense for me. Because ultimately, what is the point of a job? What is the point of making money? Like, money isn't the point of life. Like we're supposed to be using this stuff to like maybe get more time and or something, but like really the our own happiness and our own life force, our dharma, that feels like more of an important thing for me at least. And even though I've been unemployed for several months, and I've been very happy. I've been very like relaxed, very like I feel like I can spend more time on things that are more fulfilling to me. I can spend more time on the people that are
Yeah.
close to me, and I have more energy to give myself to others, which is has been super
Yeah.
valuable.
It's amazing. And I have a friend who's going through something similar.
Oh, really?
She works in social work,
Mhm.
and the field is so stressful and detrimental to her health. And she's in a position where financially her partner can help her not work for a while. And she's like, I hate it. I don't want to feel like a housewife, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is the most radical thing you can do, to not work and to focus on your community, to build up relationships. She has a sister who's like going through a divorce right now. And
Mm.
it's like, sorry to be putting your life on blast, anonymous friend, but like, there's so much that we can contribute to society and our communities and our networks that has nothing to do with making money and capitalism, and it's so valuable.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you can be there for your sister at this time, it will change her life.
Yeah. Exactly. No one's going to remember like the time they
Yeah.
had a job or the time they didn't have a job. You will remember these moments where you are there for the people in your community, the people who are closest to you. When they need you the most
Yeah.
and you are there for them, that is a memory that will stick with you because it
And so many
matters.
people want to do that. So many people want to be that to people, but it's like, oh, I have to go to work. It's just
Yeah.
like, or it's like I'm tired from work, or, whatever.
That's
But yeah,
actually
no, it
so speaking of tired from
takes
work,
up time and energy. Yeah.
I was so like when I got back, I was like listening to conversations because recently I've been just trying to peer into other people's worlds, like total strangers' worlds a little bit, and I love listening in on the conversations they
Noise.
have. What? So,
I said noise.
yeah. And one couple was having a conversation where the woman was saying that she really wishes that, scientists could figure out how to transfer dog energy into humans. So that way you can get done all of the things you need to do in the day, like work and chores and stuff like that, and still have energy to enjoy the rest of your day, like your evenings and
What
stuff.
do dogs do?
I don't know. I don't know what dogs do to
Talking
deserve
about.
this. This would probably require some sort of crazy Elon Musk Neuralink technology, which would involve the torture
Yeah.
of thousands of dogs. Um, so
No, I think dogs are chilling all day.
they
Yeah.
are also chilling all
Anywho,
day. They having had
we'll suspend
I
reality.
have dog or I've had dogs in the past. My family has dogs, and yeah, they just laze around all day until they're ready to actually do something. Then they have their bursts of energy.
That's the story of my life. I already got this secret down. Anyway,
But I was thinking, like, you are imagining this like futuristic scenario where we have like technology has advanced in such a way that we have more energy to be more productive. Like we can't even contemplate like, well, what if I spent less time on my work and then more time with people that are important to me?
totally, totally. And people even start to get creative about how they can use their free time to make money. Or, just like building little side hustles and stuff. When are you going to get some sponsors on this podcast, Bahagen?
I'm the,
Can't
you
you
know what?
monetize this?
People, for now, we're a totally community driven podcast. This is going to be, it's free
Yeah.
for everyone. I hate
I'll
ads as
send
much as
you
everyone else.
I'll send you a storyboard of who I think might be good partners.
um, but yeah, it's like, why can't we envision a world where, yeah, like being able to rely more on our creative aspects. Like this for
Mm,
me is like one of like a big creative endeavor for me. And I feel like it feels more fulfilling than like work because like one I get to be creative. This is my way of doing art, performance art, if you will.
totally.
And
Totally.
I'm doing it cuz I want to, and there is value in it, but the value may not be quantitative or tangible or monetary, but like the value is in like providing other people another opinion on just being themselves and another voice affirming their chaos.
Totally. Totally. It's a win-win. And this is the thing is when people are themselves and are free and have something to share with the world, even if it's just them being themselves fully, it makes a big difference. It improves everybody's lives around them,
Yeah.
And of course it does a lot for the person who's doing the thing that's making them happy and suits who they are.
Yeah,
So
totally.
fun. Yeah.
So I
That's how I feel about doing comedy too.
yeah, because you do stand up, and I saw you got into an open mic the other night. How did
Yeah.
that go?
These bitches line up an hour before the sign up. It's really
Whoa,
something.
whoa! I didn't
Yeah,
realize
it's
open mic was so
crazy. So
popular.
competitive. Jeez. I know. I'm like, no one's getting paid here. But people, I mean, to the point, people, it's important to them. They invest time into it. They, are
Aw,
there to,
yeah,
it's like, yeah. And I always walk away from an open mic being like, that was so much fun. I'm just
yeah,
like living the dream. I'm just like sharing my ridiculous jokes with people, and people are having fun because I'm having fun.
yeah. That's like a fantastic like creative endeavor. Like, do you feel like that's part of your dharma?
I wouldn't dare to dream such a dream, but yes. A little bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think I have some performer in me.
yeah. You know what? I think we all kind of do.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
think a
and
lot of
it's
us seek like
yeah,
a lot of us seek like some sort of validation and like affirmation from people, and sometimes that is like kind of a performance.
totally. Oh, I am such a believer that life is a stage, literally everything we do. It's just a
Yeah.
different scene in a different setting in a different act, you know?
Yeah. My
Yeah,
so one of the friends I made on this trip, she described life as a book. As like your life is a book, and you're like the main character of the story, and you get to write like the people that cross your path can like contribute to that story. Either they contribute a word or a sentence or a full paragraph or like a whole chapter, but then like instead of scenes and acts, it's like chapters and like sections of chapters.
sure.
So it's cool how like different people kind of view life in these different like kind of sectioned off ways.
There is something very, very transformative about creating your own narrative. I
Hmm.
think this is part of this book analogy, and it's something that I've realized more as I take the time to know myself and understand myself and put these pieces together about who I am.
Yeah.
I things start to make more sense and I
Hmm.
feel more confident. And I'm like, oh, this is who I am and this is why I am this way. And I'm like, that's cool, you know? And it's like to be able to and right and to be able to know that like think of yourself as the main character and be like people are gonna come in and out, but like between you and me, between me and myself, like I'm always gonna be here watching, observing, being active, of course, in my
Yeah.
own life, but I'm the main character. And what I say goes. This is funny, right?
Wait, why is it
This
funny?
kind of active, this kind of, it's almost, it feels, and maybe this is, you know, a misperception, but it feels like a little bit of an act of self delusion, you
How
know?
so?
Why do well, it's your turn to talk? Yes. No, but I know, right? I actually, you know, the second I thought that, I was like, why? But I still thought it, so I thought it needed to be said.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
You
You
know,
know,
like
yeah.
I agree that it should be challenged, but I did think it, yeah.
I think as I've been like understanding myself better and understanding like self-care better and like mindfulness better, I've been reflecting on somewhat similar things. Like people like to say, like, yeah, we're the main characters in our own story. We're the narrative in our own story, and it's true. And I don't think it's selfish to say. I like to tell people and remind myself. I remind myself constantly that we all live like hyper personalized existences. Our own, like even how we like view reality is incredibly personal. It's entirely based on like our own lived experience and nature, nurture, things like that. Um, and so because of that, like everyone experiences things very differently. We can have two different people looking at the same scene and take something completely different out of it. Like I have a friend who's more anxious and a little bit more neurotic or narcissistic than me. So like or neurotic, I don't know which. But like
That could describe everybody in the
yeah.
entire universe.
So like we'll be like let's say we're walking down the street on a sidewalk, and then he like someone will like he'll notice something and he'll be like that guy like gave us a funny look, and I'm like I think he was
Ah,
just
those
looking.
people. Yes,
And
yes,
so I think we're all so in our heads that we're creating all these narratives of what's going on that we don't even have the brain capacity half the time to like to even
mm,
notice other people, let alone like take into account what other people are thinking and try to actually like interpret and do something for other people. Where everything we do or many things that we do and say is entirely based on what's going on in our own heads and how we're interpreting
yes,
situations. So a
yes,
mantra that like I've taken up recently is nothing is personal.
mm, so
Everything,
true.
all the things that you think are like specifically affecting you from the outside are likely not.
Hmm.
It's likely just some sort of chaotic thing that someone is doing and you are just interpreting it in a personal way because you live a hyper personalized existence. You've only ever seen the world from your own perspective.
Yes, and I would propose that some of my assumptions about other people or my attempts at interpreting other people's behavior is from being from the Midwest, in which people are very passive about
Mm,
conflict,
yeah.
and that you're supposed to be able to anticipate conflict and avoid it, and like,
Yeah.
or interpret conflict out of something that's not really clear, and correct yourself or fix the situation or whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, I think direct conflict is definitely the way, because then you can go about your life thinking nothing is personal until someone's like, no, this is personal, but
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
That's an interesting point to bring up about like these different cultures and like how we like politeness versus maybe kindness. Like it's people like to say that the Midwest is the nicest place, that the people are the nicest people, but we know
They're
that
the
that's
least self-aware people,
yeah, because
and they're the biggest people pleasers. Like, I don't know, bad boundaries. Like, is that nice?
yeah, I mean it's true. Like everyone's talking about their neighbor, like usually behind their back in like ways that aren't great. Like I know, like I grew up in the
Makes
suburbs in the Midwest,
sense.
and like everyone's in each other's business, but like to their faces,
Oh,
everyone is so
so
kind.
in business. Yeah. Oh my God. So the policing,
Yeah,
the self-policing. People are just like, are they being good? Like, what's so funny? I don't know. This is a little off topic, but people leaving their windows open, like their living room, not their windows, but their curtains up so you can see in their houses.
yeah,
You seen people do this all night? Just like see them sitting in their den, whatever.
yeah. I mean, I've seen that. Like people,
It's so
like in
weird.
Seattle, like people don't really close their blinds so much. I mean, I never do.
Sure. There's something about, I think, in the Midwest, people like to be able to watch each other. They like to be able to like look at their neighbor and be like, yeah,
Mm.
they're being normal. I trust them. Like, super weird. I don't like it, but yeah. I am a blind closer. I don't like to be observable, you
That's
know?
fair. That's fair. And I mean, I'll say as a man, my experience is very different. People aren't
You
generally going
think
to be
so?
peering. People aren't generally trying to peer into my apartment for you know reasons.
Oh, no, I
Although I
wouldn't put
do live in
yourself down like
Seattle,
that. There's all,
so
there's all
I
kinds
can't
of
say
perverts
that.
out there. Some of them want you. That's the
Yeah, it's
funny
true. It's
thing.
true. Um, I actually had an interesting situation uh, the other night where my buddy and I we went to a bar, and I was chatting with a guy, like, and so I'm a big flirt. I will flirt with everybody because I find it as a fun way of getting to know someone. Oftentimes, most of the time when I flirt, I don't have any intentions of like any physical intimacy or anything like that. It's exclusively just like a fun way for me to meet someone. Like
And it's nice to compliment people
yeah,
that way
exactly. And that's
too.
all that it
Like,
really
yeah,
is. Like people think like flirting is
yeah,
like, oh, you're shoving your tongue down someone's throat, but it's like, no, I'm just giving you
uh,
compliments. And like they're like and they're going to be sincere compliments. If I find something that I really like, I'm going to comment on it. Like I'll say that your hair is looking really great today. And I mean,
are you talking to
yeah,
me?
yeah, you're looking good. Whatever you're
Thank
doing,
you.
you're vibing. You
Thank
clearly
you.
got a lot of sun when you were down in Puerto Rico. That retreat was definitely
Always
worth
be
it.
tanning. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anyway,
But like,
go on.
I think a lot of people, men especially, are so not used to getting compliments that
Mm.
they'll take flirting as like a an invitation. And so this guy starts like touching me, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with that." I put up a boundary very quickly and said like, "Hey, it's not for me. No, thank you."
Were you flirting with him? What were you wearing? Were you like giving him signals?
I was just
What were
being
you
nice. I was
drinking?
just
How many
having a
drinks have you had?
conversation.
Just being okay, vivacious,
I
yes.
did comment on like his skincare routine because he was like 15 years older than me and looked like my age. I was genuinely shocked.
Great.
I was like, because like I really appreciate good skincare routines. I've been trying to do that too because I'm trying to avoid the.
It shows, bro.
Thank
Someone's gonna
you.
come up to you and ask soon.
I'm trying to avoid the Armenian curse of becoming a raisin by your by your mid 30s. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, but yeah, and then he got, of course, very upset that I rejected his advances, and then stormed off.
Really? Really stormed off?
Yeah, yeah, he literally stormed off.
It's unfortunate.
I
Did you
mean,
tell him it wasn't personal?
I mean, I didn't take it personally because I know it wasn't me. It was like about
Did you
his,
tell him it wasn't personal? Or was it personal?
what, that he stormed off, or
Your
that,
rejection.
oh, the
Were you like,
rejection.
were you like,
Oh,
oh, I'm not interested. Nothing personal.
I didn't say that. All I said was, I mean, all I said was that I was uncomfortable, and then I thanked him for
Uh,
respecting my boundaries when he stopped. So, and
that's
I
nice.
don't think you have to.
Sounds
I don't
sounds
think.
like a healthy interaction on your part.
Yeah, and like I don't think you have to give anyone you I don't think you deserve some to tell anyone, or you don't have to give people like, oh, I'm not interested in you, or I'm not interested in this, whatever. I mean, if you're uncomfortable,
Mm,
just express your boundaries.
mm,
And once again, as a man, that might be easier for me to say because like I don't have to worry about like threats of violence or anything like that if I'm rejecting like another man's advances. Um, and like,
yeah.
yeah, men are very aggressive when they like want something and don't understand how to take compliments in a way that is like a healthy and like separates flirty from like wanting like sex.
Mm. It's also interesting, right? They're it's hard for them to accept a compliment and rejection. Them. Just
Yeah.
talking between you and me, Bahag, and let's talk about these dudes.
I mean, we even had a whole episode on rejection and ghosting, and we talked extensively about how hard it is to reject and be rejected. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
an important part. It's like the flip side of
Mm.
acceptance and accepting people into your life. You like if you want to be good at that, I think it also helps to understand how you feel and in rejection.
And they're related, right?
Hmm.
He expected you to accept his advances,
Yeah.
and to be rejected was just like too much to handle. Like couldn't even just be like, yeah, I don't know. I find that oftentimes I think when I reject men and I am very direct about it, um, they're surprised. They're like, "Oh, I didn't even like realize that
Oh,
was
really?
possible." Yeah, and they're totally like, "Oh shit!" Like I had no idea. Yeah, no,
Wait.
I'm
So
done here. Like I'll
are they
leave.
more surprised that you rejected them in a direct way, or that they were maybe like crossing one of your boundaries?
They thought they were incapable of rejection, and
Really?
for them to make me not want them to talk to me was just like so surprising. They were like, I had no idea. Like they thought they were doing me a favor or something, you know? And they're like, oh, I was just trying to,
Oh.
like give you the attention you're clearly starving for.
That's wild. So what? They went into these
Yeah.
encounters expecting like, well, she's obviously going to say yes.
Right, right. This happens a lot. If I'm
Really?
like alone, people think I'm like, very like I really want to meet somebody, like I'm there alone, like I'm clearly like,
Uh,
and that's just like not always the case. Like
yeah,
sometimes I want to meet people, and I do in different contexts, but like people think it's an open invitation that I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
looking for someone to talk to, like because I need some company, and I'm just kind of like not
Maybe because
necessarily.
they're not too like keen on being alone either. So they know if they're in that similar situation, they'd want company or something like that. Or who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it is like a toxic masculinity slash patriarchal assumption that like, oh, a single unmarried woman, like she obviously like we need to fix that.
It's it's just a, and I think honestly, I don't think it's just men that hold this perception, but like women too, that like to be out by yourself in public is just like kind of like there's a people read into it in a lot of ways. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that unusual, but I think a lot of people do. Yeah. But like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think you're
Yeah.
right though. I think you're right that there is this assumption that like if you're out on your own, you definitely want to talk to people.
Right, right, right. Which I do enjoy in some ways. And I just like, I don't like always like being hit on or like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, that I think it's totally fair. Like sometimes like I can definitely understand that. Like I like when if I'm usually out in like social spaces, like I'll like to be social with people, but like yeah, sometimes I'm not in the mood for like flirting or anything. Sometimes I just want to like hang out, have make some friends. Although I did say that I'm like constantly flirting, so
Yeah, no, it's the tactless flirting, you know,
yeah.
that I'm just kind of like, yeah. No, of course, there's always, yeah, good, good opportunities for unexpected
Yeah, and
connections,
I
but
so what helped me like understand and build my new view of flirting um is I read this really good book on relationships called The Ethical Slut. Well, it may sound
everybody is reading that right now. I read it in college.
I read it last year, so I'm a little bit ahead of that curve, but you're way ahead of the curve. But I thought it was what really like one of the things that really stuck to me is like one, it's an excellent book on like different relationship styles. And dear listener, if you're single or even if you're in a committed relationship, I think it does everyone good to like question the assumptions that you have and really try to be more present in these relationships because relationships are complicated. The relationship you have is probably different from every other relationship you've had and different from every other relationship you've seen. So I think it's been very helpful for me to like understand new like different perspectives on how relationships work like so and I think this book does a really good job of like talking through different relationship styles and
Totally.
but like the thing on flirting that really uh was interesting to me and helped me like really helped me actually kind of decouple some of or like give myself less shame about flirting and how much I flirt is she separates out flirting from what what she calls and what other people have called cruising. So in this, so flirting would be as I described. It's a playful interaction for meeting people. Like it can be fun little compliments, just like
Winking,
winking, yeah, eye
even
contact, body
smiling.
language. But it doesn't mean that
Uh-huh.
you wanna. It doesn't mean that you want to have sex or that you want to have any physical intimacy with a person. It can just be like a fun way to meet
Totally.
someone. Whereas cruising is flirting with the intent of having sex. So that's like
Mm,
imagine you're like going around from person to person, basically looking for someone who's willing. And you
sure.
know, both of them are valid. Both of them have their places, but it's important to
Yep.
separate the two out. You like, I think I sincerely believe if we all like
Mm,
flirted with each other in more platonic ways, getting to know people would be so much more exciting. Like, it's so much more fun than like asking the standard,
mm.
like, what do you do for work? Where are you from? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? Instead, like, you know, ask some like you know talk to them like a normal person like comment on things that they've done like like I love noticing the ways that people put effort into their outfits when they go out
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
and like yeah
Yes.
so I think that's it's a lot of fun and it makes meeting people super cool.
Yeah. And this is something that I think women have been in tune to for a long time.
Mm.
I feel like it's actually maybe kind of a recent revolution. Maybe it was just my personal awareness of this idea of just like building up other women just cause,
Yeah.
just being like, I see your style, I like it. And for whatever reason, it's so much harder for men because like there's the masculinity just says you can't do that, and if you do, it's super gay or
Yeah, it's
whatever.
so true.
You know, like it's super unfortunate. It's actually very sad,
Yeah.
that you guys can't. I mean, you guys.
I am the
I
representative
mean,
of all men.
all of you. Yeah, but no, it's just like, yeah, it sucks. That's just a nice thing to do for each other, and it doesn't have to mean anything except I notice you, I see you,
Yeah.
you're cool, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. Like, I'm only recognizing these things now because I'm a man, and like, yeah, men don't really compliment each other. Even a lot of my friends don't compliment each other. And like, so I'll compliment them, but then they feel weird about complimenting me back, which is fine, you
Yeah,
know.
they're scrambling. They're
Yeah, they're
like, what
like,
do I
oh God, is he
say?
hitting on me? Is this
Did
the
I
day?
did I touch his dick? I don't know.
And like, so
What's the next move?
I'll like give people like I'll give men compliments in like total strangers compliments, and like sometimes they'll be like, are you hitting on me? This is weird. And sometimes they'll be like genuinely shocked that like
Yeah,
that one, they're being talked to, and two, that by a stranger, and two that the stranger is like gonna is like affirming them in some way.
right. I mean, I can keep doing it. Hey,
I mean,
compliments must stay
I'm
again.
gonna keep doing it because that's how I am and that's who I am. I'm not gonna stop because like other people might think that like I'm hitting on them or something like that. I will make my intentions
Which,
clear where necessary.
yeah, yes, right. Which is where no homo is all about. Like, it's so stupid that it's needed to be said.
Yeah,
But like,
it
yeah, this is the
is.
whole thing. Is like people want to be kind to each other, but they just like don't want to be misinterpreted. It's one of the greatest like misunderstandings. I mean, I think it's yeah. I think people have trouble discerning like homosexual approaches and flirting with heterosexual. I'm like, you just
Yeah.
can't understand that all these situations are equivalent, but you just like don't see it the same because you only understand one side of it. You only have this hetero lens, but like this happens in hetero interactions too. That it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
yeah,
like guys will compliment each other on like gains at the gym or like sick things that they did or whatever. Like so, and like that's very similar. So why not also compliment like, hey, you're looking good today, or like you're looking fresh.
yeah, yeah. I think everyone deserves it.
Yeah. And this kind of relates to our earlier conversation on Midwest culture and like how we view like niceness versus kindness. And maybe men are more used to like niceness, like being like superficially kind to people versus like actual like kind like deeper kindness and like
Mm.
showing like trying to build each other up and affirming each other. And this kind of makes me reflect on, um, you've probably heard this, like that, like there's that classic like toxic masculine trope or patriarchal trope that like, oh, men make better friends than women because men will be upfront about their issues with you, but are going to
Mm.
be like bros with you. Like will always have your back, and then women will be like nice to you to your face and then like backstab you or whatever when your back's turned, which is entirely like bullshit. Like I've had many women friends and they're all super kind, and actually like I've had much better women friends than I've had male friends because my male friends don't like they don't know themselves well enough to even talk about themselves. Like these are
Totally.
guys that I've known for years, and I feel like I still don't really know them.
Yes. And and I think that maybe I'm interested in this characterization, which I think is true about men and women as far as directness goes, or like she's this way to my face and this way behind my back. I
Hmm.
think that a lot of feminization socially encourages duplicity,
Interesting.
Like,
How so?
no, regardless of how I feel about somebody, I still need to be nice to their face,
Hmm.
So like it seems like I'm being duplicitous, but like I'm just doing my role and being like, oh hi, hey hey hey, stupid fucking whatever guy in charge. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I literally like have no respect for a lot of the men in power in my life. Okay, all right, I hate my job. Full confession. But yeah, no. So yeah, so I think about that a lot and how I act towards them.
Hmm.
Very non-threatening, very like passive, like agreeable. A lot of these things that I'm doing to stay under the radar
Yeah.
at work.
And that's kind of like what you
And
have to do even as a
yeah,
man. Like, it's just,
I think
yeah.
so. I don't think it's that gendered actually now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like these hierarchies that we have. Like, yeah, I definitely, and like you can see this in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform because
Is that
people say
right?
that Instagram is inauthentic. Well, they've never been to LinkedIn. Like Instagram, you could at least believe that that these people are enjoying their lives and are like truthful
You
when they're
spend time scrolling LinkedIn.
you spend like a minute scrolling LinkedIn and you see so many posts that are like the most like bullshit inauthentic posts you'll ever see. Like I can believe on Instagram like that someone is living their life when they're like traveling the world and going to beaches and stuff cuz like yeah, that's a great time. But I don't believe that you are super excited about your work in actuarial table management or something like that.
Yeah.
That you think you're really
Yeah.
changing the world by working on a payment platform solution for this stupid app.
Or maybe they are just in the first 3 months of a new job and they have no idea
Yeah, yeah.
how dark and shitty it is. Yeah. Yeah. I do kind of want to hear more about your experience with unemployment. Like I'm curious
Hmm.
about what it's like and how it feels to be out from underneath the
Yeah.
capitalism machine
I mean, I'll say that I
for
have.
just a moment, knowing fully that you have to go back.
I'd say that it's definitely helped put some things into perspective for me. Um, I think before there were definitely some parts of my life that I was feeling like I was kind of doing automatically or following like the steps that are recommended, like the American Adult Handbook. That I talked about earlier, where you get a job, you buy a house, you have a family, you stay in that house
Yeah,
until
who
you're
fucking writes
65,
those scripts? Yeah.
and you can't leave your job because now you've got a mortgage on this house that you can't afford without that job, and the bank's not going to insure your loan unless you have that income. So you need to stay in that job for as long as that loan's around, and then like maybe you have a family. Oh, and raising kids in the U.S. is super expensive these days, so you're definitely going to need to keep your job, and your spouse is probably also going to have a job, so you're both going to be stressed out and like working constantly and maybe have less time for your kids and then less time for each other. Your marriage will eventually like become a hollow
Definitely no
shell.
time for
No
friends.
time for
Yeah.
friends. Yeah. All because like you've bought into this cycle. And so now that I've had the chance of being removed, it's given me space, time and space. I feel like even though I'm not filling my days with that many things to do, I do what feels right for me at the time. And this is even how I felt during work. Like I can't be productive 8 hours a day, 5 days a week on command. My productivity works in cycles. Sometimes I'm productive and I can get a bunch of stuff done. Sometimes I am not productive and I am just sitting in front of my computer trying to write a single email for eight
Mm.
hours. Um,
Right.
And you know what? If
Yeah, you might as well be doing something completely different if you're in that state.
yeah,
It's worthless to try.
and we have advanced so much in this capitalist economy. We've made so many efficiencies, but I don't. But like our work hours haven't changed. Why are we still working 40-hour
I
weeks?
know. I know. I know. I literally
These,
tell my phone this
yeah,
every fucking day. I'm like, Siri, I know you're listening, you dumb bitch. Tell the rest of them you know exactly how to do my job. You've been
yeah,
watching me do my job for the last whatever, however long I've had an iPhone. I'm like, you know how to do this. Just do it.
yeah, yeah,
Process it. They're making art.
yeah. So I think having this space has helped me, like, giving me the space to reflect and to give myself time. And like I mentioned, I traveled, I got to see some very beautiful places in the world, and also got like a nice appreciation for how, you know what, people have made it all around the world in many different time periods with more and less. People will survive. We will all make it. We will all live lives we are happy with as long as we like understand our happiness and choose to be
As long as you
authentically
know how.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like even talking like a friend of mine asked the other day, well, like right now I'm thinking I don't really want to buy a house in the US. Housing in the US has gotten super expensive, and those loans, that debt is like that would chain me to work, and then I would lose a lot of this time and space that I have for myself. And so then I'm thinking,
Mm.
well, um so then my friend asks, well, what about if you want to have a family and kids? Well, people have raised kids in apartments that half the size of mine all around the world. And if maybe I don't want to raise kids in the US, I've been thinking about like what if I go to another country, a country that has more support for raising children and more support for people, like, and not just like programs like good public education and healthcare, but also like community spaces. I feel like people in the US need as big of houses as possible with big yards because we don't have any community spaces. We don't have parks and plazas for kids to go play in without us worrying about them being like attacked by strangers. Like that's not a concern in like Italy or like
Yeah.
Armenia. Like
Totally. I know parks are so like stigmatized, right?
yeah.
Like public spaces are just like so like undesirable. People are like, ew, I don't want to be around
And I think
people.
it's a culture
Like, what the fuck?
I think it's a cultural
Yeah.
problem of the U.S. where we're
Yeah.
we're raised to think that like once you get a certain age, you have to leave. You are kicked out of the nest. You have to make a life for yourself, and everyone is told this, and it's just so alienating, and it is so hard to build a community on your own, and that's basically what we're asking people to
Mm.
do. So then they don't build a community; they just find a partner maybe, and then like find a house, and then that's their community.
Mm-hmm.
One other
And
person.
then it's like, all right, yeah, in your house, you have everything you need. You have your laundry.
Yeah.
You never need to go to the laundromat.
You have your
You get your
your big
groceries
TV, so you don't need
delivered.
to go to the
You
theater.
guys,
You have a big
you're right.
yard. You
You
don't need
have
to
your
go to
backyard.
a
Yeah.
park.
Yeah, maybe a hot tub. Like, sure, why not? It's
Yeah.
it's wild, right? My sister, who is my only viewpoint into the mind of the weird Christian conservatives of the world, her her suburb neighborhoods, her neighbors are talking about buying an empty lot to make their own private park. So
A
their kids don't have
private
to go to the
park?
public
Oh
park.
my
Yes, like
god.
in their cul-de-sac. Like they want to buy a piece of land, go in on it together. So they're like, oh, then we can just leave our kids there and like not worry about them. And I'm like, what the hell? What the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
people like it is.
this separation
Yeah.
is so like elitist. Yeah.
And just shows like we are like recreating we're recreating things that have been around for centuries, since before like the US was founded as a country. Like there were plazas, there were parks, like We had
Mm-hmm.
figured it out as a civilization, and now we're like trying to recreate that. But yeah, in these even more segregated ways, splitting it up by
Yeah.
class, splitting up by color, splitting up by however else we want to, just to like for what? Because we've created these like false illusions that like strangers are evil, and like we can't like rely on the people that literally we live near. Like it
Totally.
boggles my mind that like once you buy a house, sometimes you don't even get to know all of your neighbors. Sometimes you never meet them. And then you
Years and years
yeah.
pass by. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's wild.
how yeah,
And
I
people
mean,
think it's weird. Yeah.
yeah, and it's lonely. Like it gets super lonely.
It's isolating. It's stigmatizing to be open-hearted.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
What has helped you kind of like get past that stigmatization or like to still because you're very open, you make connections very readily, and like you even said that that excites you. So what do you think helped you get to that point?
Totally. I mean, I guess just kind of like positive reinforcement.
Mm.
Like, I think as far as public spaces go and my ability to utilize and be comfortable in public spaces, like it's just a matter of practice, like taking public transit all the time, love parks, you know, love libraries,
Mhm.
whatever else there is. Um,
So kind of like that whole being around other people.
yeah, and just like seeing it for what it is and having a lot of like positive interactions and honestly a lack of negative interactions.
Yeah.
Like right now, I live across the street from Humboldt Park in Chicago. And when people hear that, they're like, oh my God, scary. And I'm like, why? I go to that park all the time, probably like twice a day, like
Yeah.
different times of the day. And people are like, well, there's people camping there, like there's homeless people there. And I'm like, yeah, there is. And it's just something that like if you expose yourself to it and you're not like, oh my God, they're going to jump out and stab me, you realize that they're just there. They have nothing. They don't want anything from anybody. They just don't have a house, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
They're
just
just
like, and it's like,
people.
you know, and you see the same kinds of things on public transit as far as like people being in like desperate situations. And a lot of people are really turned off by that, right? They're like, oh, I don't want to ride the bus or the train because it's like scary.
Yeah.
And it's wild, man. It all comes back to our healthcare system and lack of access to it, you know, especially when it comes to mental health. And the spillover effects are enormous.
Yeah.
You know, people don't want to use public amenities. A lot of times, people in like retail settings or different, just like public facing jobs, are dealing with people who are like in the middle of a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like it turns a regular job into something that's like way traumatic that you're not equipped for just because you happen to be around when like someone who really needs help can't have it because like they can't afford
Hmm.
it. There's nothing available.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I wonder because like in the U.S. it's said like we all the general assumption is that retail workers have a terrible, terrible like terrible work. Like it's just very
Yeah,
straining.
they absorb a lot.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if it's similar in places that have better like access to healthcare, especially mental health care,
Mm.
or like more of a community driven place, like where maybe you're not. Welcome back, everyone. So we had a little bit of a technical issue. If you notice some slowage of the video and a sudden shift, we had some technical issues. But you know what? We vibe unconditionally. Earlier today, we were talking about some mindfulness practices, and a good one is what I call vibe unconditionally, where things can happen that go out of your control, like your computer kind of freaking out and crashing. And you know what? We just deal with it. We roll with the punches. We vibe. We make it work. And here we are. So Tessa, last we ended. So we just finished up the conversation on retail workers. Do you have any other thoughts to conclude that before we move on and conclude the
Yes.
chat?
Yes, first of all, I think police officers are more sensitive than retail workers in a dealing with conflict and oppositional defiance.
Hmm.
Retail workers much more patient.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a professional skill. Anyway.
I mean, it's true.
Oh,
Like as a retail
yeah.
worker, if you like pushed back against a customer, you could get fired easily.
Oh, totally, totally. And the people who are in the position who are attracted to the job of policing, sorry, this is a completely different tangent, but like they're way more interested in the authority and compliance. And it's just like totally ineffective, especially in like a mental health space. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So what I would suggest for people listening is, most of the people listening and watching this are already good to retail workers, but just keep doing that because during our little break, I was reading some articles about how violence against retail workers is like a global phenomenon. Like
Is that right?
since COVID and with high inflation and like people not being able to meet their living standards or like cost of living going up, it's putting a lot of strain on people, and those people are putting that stress on to retail workers. So just
Yes.
remember
Okay.
we're all like in this together. Like we're all human and we're all trying to like survive this crazy life. And hopefully that'll help us get a little bit more empathy and kindness in this world.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And my other statement on retail workers and other people who have public facing jobs is that they're at the mercy or they're paying for the spillover costs of an underfunded mental health care system. You
100%.
know, and all of us do. Like, whenever we're uncomfortable seeing someone who's like clearly mentally ill on the street, we're all paying for it. And our
Hmm.
loss of safety, and that we're all like, oh, it makes me uncomfortable. And it's like, we don't have
Yeah.
to live like this. The money that we put into our public safety net and programs, like, it shortchanges people, it cuts people out.
It's true. We think we're saving money, but really we're just pushing that cost to to invisible areas. It may not be as tangible, but it's real. It's even more real. It's causing strain in society. It's causing like harm to the people that are just trying to help us, and it's tearing us apart and further alienating us.
Totally, totally. Quality of life. It's something people barely understand because we barely even experience it.
I feel like some people are just living to exist rather than existing to live, you know?
Man.
So, Tessa, I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have any concluding thoughts on our little
Yes,
chat?
yes, that was a great hiatus. Thanks for getting me back and
Of
thanks for having me.
course.
And yeah, no, I mean, uh, no comments, I guess. I feel like I've said everything I could ever think of.
No, interesting revelations on your walk.
No, man, except that public parks are amazing.
Public
The
parks
weather
are
was perfect
amazing.
out. Everyone was just having a nice time. People are playing baseball,
Yeah.
sports,
And you, dear
throwing
listener, go enjoy a
rocks.
park.
Get out there.
Get out
Yeah, do
there.
it.
Meet a new
Don't
friend. Enjoy the
don't think everyone's out to
sunshine.
get you. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Tessa, and thank you for putting up with our little technical difficulties. It's
No
always
worries.
such a great time chatting with you, both on camera and off camera, and definitely hope to have you again soon.
Totally. Always, always a pleasure to be a guest. Yes.
And
Thank you.
to you listeners, we now have an Instagram. Woo! For authentic chaos. So please follow, please like and rate the show on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or wherever you're watching it. It really helps. And as always, embrace your chaos with kindness. Thank you so much. All right.